The hardest part about loving without promises isn't that it ends. It's that no one did anything wrong. There was no betrayal, no sudden goodbye, no moment you can point to and say, that's when everything broke. It just slowly stopped fitting. And that kind of ending hurts in a way no promise ever could. We never made promises to each other, not because we didn't care, but because we were honest enough to know how fragile promises really are. We never said forever, never said no matter what, never tried to convince the future to stay still for us, and somehow that made everything feel real. Love didn't arrive loudly. It didn't announce itself. There was no confession that changed the air in the room. It came quietly, so quietly that I didn't notice until one day it was already everywhere. We were just two people sharing ordinary things, the same space, the same routines, the same kind of days that don't seem important until they're gone. We talked about nothing special, what we ate, what tired us, what made the day feel a little less heavy, nothing poetic, nothing memorable, but the conversations kept coming back. And days passed, then weeks, then months. Without realizing it, we were learning each other. I learned how you liked your coffee, not because you told me, but because I watched you make it every morning. You learned when I needed silence, not because I asked, but because you stayed quiet without making me explain. Love didn't feel like falling. It felt like settling into something gentle, something steady, something that didn't ask for proof. Some people believe love has to be loud, that it needs to be declared, that words are what make it real. Ours lived in the unspoken, in the way you noticed when I was tired before I admitted it, in the way you stayed even when I had nothing interesting to give, in the way silence never felt uncomfortable when you were beside me. We didn't talk about the future much. No long plans, no timelines, no promises whispered late at night. And maybe that should have scared me, but it didn't, because every time I looked up, you were still there. When the days were boring, you stayed. When I was unsure, you stayed. When I wasn't at my best, you stayed. Not because you promised to, but because you chose to. And that choice meant more than any promise ever could. Promises sound strong, but they break easily. They assume people won't change. They believe time will be kind. They ask the future to cooperate. We knew better. We knew life doesn't wait for certainty. We knew love doesn't always survive the same version of two people forever. So we didn't promise. We just showed up. In small ways, in quiet ways, every day. And for a while, that was enough. Until it wasn't. Not because the love disappeared, but because something else grew heavier. The silences lasted longer. The space between us started asking questions we didn't know how to answer. There was no explosion, no dramatic ending, just a slow realization that staying was beginning to hurt more than leaving. And that realization was the most painful part. Because when love doesn't end badly, there's nothing to blame, no one to be angry at, no story to tell yourself that makes it easier to walk away. Just two people standing quietly, understanding that what once felt safe now felt uncertain. I remember the last time we talked. There were no raised voices, no accusations, just tired honesty. We didn't say, "I'll always love you." We didn't say, "Maybe one day." We didn't say anything that would trap the other person in hope. And somehow, that hurt more than a promise breaking. Because leaving without promises means accepting something terrifying. That love can be real and still not stay. That someone can matter deeply and still not be part of your future. That what you shared was enough, even if it didn't last. For a long time, I wondered if love without promises was a mistake. If we should have held on tighter, tried harder, said the words people expect lovers to say. But now, I think differently. I think promises don't make love stronger. Presence does. I think choosing someone every day matters more than promising them forever. I think loving honestly, without pretending you control the future, is one of the bravest ways to love. We didn't fail at love. We lived it, fully, quietly, without illusions. And even now, when I think of you, I don't feel regret. I feel gratitude. For the way you loved me without trying to own me, for the way you stayed without guarantees, for the way you let me go without bitterness. Some loves aren't meant to be carried forever. Some loves exist to teach us what gentleness feels like, what safety feels like, what being chosen without obligation feels like. And once you've known that kind of love, it stays with you, even if the person doesn't. We never made promises to each other, and somehow that made everything we shared honest.